My name is Rich Lescouflair from Skydawn Game Studios, creator of Esper Genesis and Phantasy Star Tabletop, and you're listening to Morrus's unofficial tabletop RPG talk.
This week, Morrus, PJ, and Jessica are joined by Rich Lescouflair to talk about Phantasy Star. In the news, lots of big Dungeons & Dragons announcements, including the D&D Direct recap, new Forgotten Realms sourcebooks, a Project Sigil update, and more. This week on Morrus's unofficial tabletop RPG talk.
This podcast is sponsored by Captain Wrigley's Starship Emporium. What's a starship? Is the GM mixing his genres again? Well, apparently Captain Wrigley is a very handsome man and the greatest salesman in the galaxy. Whatever that is. Wait, who's that?
Greetings, human.
What?
We come in peace.
You come in peace?
Shoot to kill.
Shoot to kill? I'll show you shoot to kill, you witless drones. Take this fireball right in the face! Wait, what? They were just extras for the commercial. Well, why didn't you say so? Do I still get paid?
For the tabletop role-playing news, we aim to amuse and we aim to enthuse. And Morrus's unofficial tabletop RPG
Hello, and welcome to Morrus's unofficial tabletop RPG talk. I am Russ, aka Morrus, or Morrus, aka Russ, and with me this week is
PJ Coffee from the Southampton Guild of Roleplayers, and here taking time out from her quest to seek bloody vengeance after those who killed her brother. It's the one! It's the only!
It's me, Jessica from EM Publishing. Did you say revenge for killing my brother?
Yeah.
He's still alive.
I was making a secret joke that listeners, as they listen to the podcast, will then understand.
Oh, okay.
You see, we are playing with the concept of linear time, as we agree this is flat circle.
I'm just completely lost.
Okay, anyway.
I'm sorry for listening to what our guests had to say.
Well,
Okay.
People might be confused right now because of the way time works in a linear fashion. They have not yet listened to our interview with our guest outcoming in the second half of the podcast.
The talented Rich Lescouflair from Skydawn Entertainment, who has previously been on the podcast to talk about Esper Genesis.
Yes.
Exactly.
But we'll talk to Rich in the second half of the show. The first half of the show, as usual, we are going to talk about some news. And there's a lot of it.
Yes.
Let's go.
It's a big news week.
Where shall we start?
What's happening?
Oh, well, most of it is D&D, so let's do the non-D&D stuff first. And then we can dive into the D&D stuff. How about that?
All right, okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to start the podcast off then. Top billing, let's go, with Purple Martin Games, as done by designer Peter Martin. The Manual of Adventurous Resources More has reached Electrum status on Drive for RPG. The hard way, saying all these copies, one at a time, amazing stuff. And in honour of this, he's doing 25% off. Oh. So, if you love success, now is the time to hop on that hype train.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Talking about hype trains and success.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, okay.
Quick segue here into the biggest tabletop RPG Kickstarter ever.
Mm-hmm.
So the Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere RPG has finished now.
Yeah.
What's the score on the door?
Yeah, it overtook Avatar towards the beginning of this week.
I need to know what the final numbers were, because we got like a little bit of a sweepstake going on the designer forum. So,
Yes, well, so the final number, they've got late pledges going on, so the final number when it actually ended was, drum roll, 14 million. $557,439, made up of 52,652 backers.
Wow. Over 14.5 million.
How many backers was that?
52,652.
Oh,
PJ,
goodness.
you know the question.
I'm on it, Jessica, I'm on it. Army of the world by size. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So what country could the backers of this
That's an
RPG
average
overtake?
of $276 per backer, by the way. That's it.
I don't know if they could overtake it, but they'd certainly be on like the right sort of. So what were we saying? 52,000. That puts us over Singapore with a mere 51,000 active military, but beneath the Dominican Republic, which has 56,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Good to know. Well, congratulations to them.
Yeah, so interesting. It's like nearly 1.5 times what Avatar did in terms of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only about 60% of what Avatar did in terms of backers.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot less backers. It's a much higher, more than twice as much average pledge is what's done that.
And a lot less merchandise as well.
There's a lot of stuff there you can
There's
get.
A lot of books. Yeah. There's a lot of books, tell you that,
yeah. Yeah. Well, this is now not only the biggest tabletop RPG Kickstarter ever.
Yes.
It's the biggest gaming Kickstarter ever of any kind.
Is it?
Wow.
Like bigger than any board game or video game.
Okay.
But also, it's the third biggest Kickstarter ever.
Beaten only
by, I believe, by a watch.
A watch?
Of some kind.
Okay.
And Brandon Sanderson's own other Kickstarter, which is the number one.
Wow.
Which is the actual books. Wow, the man has a lot of fans.
Yeah. So Brandon Sanderson has the first and third biggest crowdfunding projects ever.
Well, there you go.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that other than, wow, that's a big
exciting time for the team that's developing the RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, high expectations, and good luck to them.
Well, they've got a lot of work ahead of them, I guess.
Yeah. But I bet they could probably afford some decent art.
I would hope. Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what other news have we got? We got some news about Traveller.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Did you want to do that one, Jess?
Sure. Well, I'm sure I don't know any more than you, but I can certainly tell people listening. So, the Traveller RPG, which people may be familiar with, it's a sci-fi setting. I don't know what to say. It's sci-fi's Traveller. You probably know about it if you're listening to this. What can I say? I think it's one of the first ever sci-fi RPGs.
Yeah, one
Humans
of them.
Imperial Space.
1977.
I played it once. It was good. We did it in like kind of a Firefly vibey setting, and it was good fun. Anyway.
Interestingly, apparently Firefly was based on a Traveller campaign.
That makes a lot of sense because it worked. It really worked. I had a very nice session there. Anyway, the news isn't that Traveller exists. We all know that's happening.
Yes.
So the game's creator and owner is Marc Miller.
Okay.
Mongoose Publishing has published the Traveller RPG materials, and they've had it for years under license. And now Marc has passed ownership to Mongoose, so it's no longer under a license. They own it, so they have completely bought it out. So that means that Mongoose will continue for the future to keep publishing Traveller, I guess, because it's not a license. So that's when you own something as a publisher, it's obviously a lot more secure to keep investing in it because you're not worried the license could be taken from you for whatever reason.
Yeah. I think from what I understand, like Marc Miller was like concerned about legacy and succession is the word he used. And obviously they've worked together for a long time, and there's trust between them. And obviously Miller trusts Mongoose to take good care of his baby, as it were. So yeah, and they didn't actually want to announce this either. The reason they had to is because the news. The original suggestion was that Marc wanted it not to be announced until he had died.
Oh wow.
Not that there's any suggestion that he's ill or anything. I don't know if he is or not, but
not that that's imminent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, touch words. Yeah.
Which they were quite happy about because they've been talking about this for years. They signed the contracts in January of this year.
Okay.
And then the suggestion was, the chances of keeping this secret for decades or however long it is before Marc Miller passes were slim. So they decided, okay, in that case, we'll announce it in 2027 on Traveller's 50th anniversary.
Okay.
But part of the process is there's a lot of third-party publishers, and they had to be informed. And because this was happening, because people were being told, people who were licensing Traveller in various ways, not just like the game, but anyone who was licensing Traveller from Marc Miller, whether they were doing art or this or whatever they were doing, had to be informed that Mongoose was taking over and they would no longer be licensing it from him, they'd be licensing it from Mongoose. And that turns out to be quite a few people. It became really clear that the news was going to, become public. There'd be just too many people knowing about it at that point. And so they decided to announce it now.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
there you
makes
go.
sense. Yeah, ahead of the speculation and so forth.
Yeah, Traveller, massive influence on my What Sword Is New system. Traveller invented the Life Path system, character creation system, which I like immensely.
Yes.
And it was also famous for you're able to die during character creation.
Yes. Although nowadays...
not so much nowadays, but...
No. Nowadays you just merely incur crippling medical debt. Good times.
Right, well, we've got some Dungeon World news.
Oh, yeah.
That's also changing ownership.
I vaguely know about this, but not enough to actually say.
So it has been purchased by Luke Crane.
Mm-hmm.
So Luke Crane, you would know from Burning Wheel and Mouse Guard.
Okay.
And was also head of community at Kickstarter for some years. So the game's been purchased from the original creators, Adam, I never know how to say this last name, Koebel, is it? Koebel. Koebel.
Oh, yeah.
And Sage Latora.
Okay, yeah.
And there was some accusations of sort of like poor behaviour on the parts of Adam Koebel.
Was that not to do with a podcast where there was like non-consensual?
I think so. Yes.
Role playing.
Yeah.
Of a sexual nature with a robot.
I believe so. Yeah. I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean that.
People can imagine my face right now at this conversation on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, there was a little bit more controversy later. So then Crane was currently head of community at was at the time head of community at Kickstarter and attempted a Kickstarter campaign for something called the Perfect RPG. And this is a couple of years ago, like 2020, 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
And one of the creators on there was Adam Koebel, which there was a big old backlash about that. And that resulted in Crane having to resign from his job at Kickstarter.
Ah.
Okay.
Right.
So this is like 3 years later. Now Crane is now purchasing
the very popular Dungeon World
from Koebel and Latora, along with another business partner. I don't know who that is. And they're making a new edition of the game.
Ah, okay. Right.
I'm assuming that the original creators are not going to be involved. I've got no information either way. I'm assuming not.
For listeners at home, there was an amazing display of synchronised shrugs coming from PJ and Jess, which should rightly have secured its place in the Olympics. But
yeah.
Such is the nature.
Synchronised shrugging.
Yeah, synchronised shrugging. Yeah.
Synchronised shrugging. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing sport. I can't wait to watch that.
Could be worse. Could be breakdown.
So that's the news basically.
Cool.
That is the news.
I mean, I've not played Dungeon Worlds a lot, so I know it's very popular, and I've seen a lot of discourse about it online. So I'm intrigued to see what a new edition will bring and what changes that is.
It's powered by the Apocalypse, isn't it? Dungeon World.
Yeah.
Which I have played. I haven't played Dungeon World, but I played Powered by the Apocalypse, various Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Yeah, it's a story game, and relies on tropes, and does it. I imagine it is a very, very fairly serviceable job. Yeah.
I like stories.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to move away from that system? They're going to change the system? They're going to keep the system? I don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
Watch this space. I'm sure they will tell us in time.
Yeah, I'm sure so. Yeah, so that's that news. Okay, what else we got? Legend of Vox Machina, Season 3. Critical Role's Amazon Prime cartoon show.
They've got a Season 3 out
Animated series.
There's a trailer for Season 3 has just been released.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should probably try and look up Season 2. I vaguely recall enjoying Season 1, although it was a bit weird in places. I think because they stepped out of character. And it was a bit incoherent. But, I mean, for animation, quite enjoyable, and they had a barbarian jump pack train that hit it with a big axe.
Didn't we watch the first episode for this podcast? Or I'm misremembering that? We did, didn't we?
I think we did, that was quite fun.
Yeah, so Season 3 is going to be on Prime Video on October the 3rd.
There we go.
Exciting times.
Yeah. So the thing, the show kind of adapts the D&D campaign played by Critical Role.
Yes.
Although it makes some changes and stuff, and it takes out the sort of D&D IP stuff and replaces it with other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. Those who are fans of Critical Role should tune in.
Nice.
And didn't they had a kick? Yeah, I just remember. Yeah, they had a $10 million Kickstarter for the first season, didn't they? And then Prime picked it up.
It was ludicrous big.
Yeah. I remember that now.
But not one of the top 3 best crowdfunders of all time.
No.
Sorry, just a callback to earlier.
But probably not a million miles away from it.
Yeah. Like, probably
$10 million isn't that much, though. Well, it's 14 million, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like more than $1 million away from it, for sure.
More than $4 million away from it, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's happening.
Yeah.
Yes, that is happening. Okay. So I think that's most of the non-D&D news.
There is a lot of D&D news.
There's a lot of D&D news.
A little baby Kickstarter, which is very cute.
Oh, yes.
It's got a £455 goal, which translates to $600 US. 25 days ago. It's called Interrupted Intern.
Okay.
You play as undead, which I thought was quite a cool way to start off an adventure.
Okay.
You're creating an afterlife worth thinking. I just literally on Wednesday was playing Counts of Worms, which for those of you who remember the second adventure, yes, that was it. And we all played as dragons. So this idea of playing has skeletons, ghosts, zombies, vampires. Could be a good laugh.
I know which one of those I'd want to be.
Oh, is this based on skin tone or based on coolness?
Well, if you're a skeleton, you've got no flesh.
That's true.
If you're a ghost, you can't touch anything. If you're a zombie, you're just walking around and rotting. And if you're a vampire, you just look cool and dramatic. So vampire wins every time, surely.
I would argue that you suck, but...
Yeah, skeleton, not having any skin could be a benefit. Think of how much you'll save on, like, lotion and skincare.
That's true.
Well, maybe your bones will need lotion.
And dogs will
now that they're exposed to the elements.
Well, I've got arthritis anyway. They already need something, so, that's fine.
Easy access. Bit WD-40, job done.
Yes, that'd be easier.
WD-40 instead, yeah.
The cure to autoimmune diseases is just get rid of your skin. Just be a skeleton. Good.
Well, thank you for that. Whether you're appearing in science.
Good, I fixed it.
I would say it's by Erin Anderson and $10 for digital PDF copy. Yeah, it looks fun. So if you're interested, it's on Kickstarter now. Interrupted Intern.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's only $10. I'll back it live.
That does actually look fun. I mean, I think I'd probably enjoy playing a one shot of that, just playing as an undead trying to. Yeah, that does sound fun.
I think I'll give that a go. And also, I think this, because it's 5e, I could easily port it over to A5e, because most stuff I'm running A5e now. But this looking through, I could easily run it with level up. So I'll pick that up. Done.
It looks pretty cute for you. Hey, there you go. Alrighty.
There we go.
All right.
Let's make it happen, people.
All right, should we get onto this D&D news?
Yeah. Well,
you're both sighing. You're not excited. What's wrong?
It's not. I am excited. It's just it's a lot of it.
Did a lot of this fall out on Tuesday, the D&D Direct?
It pretty much all did. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't watch that, but I know you did, Russ. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So on Tuesday, D&D Direct was a sort of live streamed, pre-recorded video event. That went out on Tuesday evening, our time. I think it was like 10 a.m. in America. And basically it was about half an hour long and it covered 3 broad topics. It took a look at the upcoming 2024 core rulebooks. It talked about Project Sigil, the 3D virtual tabletop. And it talked about the future of D&D in general in terms of what books are coming out in 2025 after the core rulebooks. So there are 3 things it talked about. I don't think we need to go into the core rule books yet again. I think, Yeah.
We've talked a lot about
them. We all know what's in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need that. So we can just sort of go on to... what should we do first? Should we do Project Sigil or shall we do the 2025 books?
Let's start with Sigil.
Do a Sigil first.
A Sigil. So what's the news with the project?
So they talked about Project Sigil for about 10 minutes.
Good.
They showed a lot of very, very nice clips from it, like swooping cameras over graveyards and towns and like miniature builders where you put together your digital minis and the level designer where you're like adding rooms and floors and walls and traps and things like that. All looks super, super, super slick. Way more slick than it looked in that demo that they did, like, was it a month ago? Whenever it was. It was a Gen Con, wasn't it? About a month ago. So it looked way more slick I don't know whether that's because it's come along a bit further or whether that's just some selected, like, pre-rendered, not actual gameplay type stuff or not. I'm not entirely sure. But it did look super slick. I will give it that. So it's going to come with an adventure called Danger in Dunbarrow, a free adventure which you can play, and that kind of introduces the 3D tabletop to you. Mm-hmm. You can bring in, I mean, this is what you would expect anyway, but you can bring in any character from D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
But there's this mini maker. It lets you design your digital miniatures, and they showed a few quick clips of that.
Nice.
Basically, you like add your clothes and your hair. So it's like when you make a character appearance in a video game.
Yeah.
It's like that, but it was like it's literally a 3D miniature that you're making.
Yeah. I'm going to take like a bit of a shock because I haven't seen it. But did you see anything like, I don't know, mobility aids, prosthetics?
No, it was literally just like a second.
Yeah.
And one shot of one mini.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it to sort of raise the point of the day. And actually, we've had 20 years of casualties coming back from foreign wars in the UK and the US. There's people...
Yeah. Well, this is...
might
I don't
like
know
to see
the answer to
themselves,
that.
but
I couldn't say one way or the other.
See what happens. No, fair enough. Yeah. It'd be good to see if they do.
Yeah. I mean, they did talk about, like, stylistically, these assets, as they call them. They say they're designed to make it feel like you're buying, like, a high-end miniature.
Okay. So...
And
the
will you be able to buy that as a high-end miniature? They didn't say. Yeah, well, things like Hero Forge exist, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, they haven't said anything like that.
Okay.
But
I don't know. I reckon if you give Hero Forge a couple of weeks and bite at the cherry, they'll knock something. They're very innovative.
My guess is there's going to be obviously a whole load of stock miniatures, monsters, and things like that. There'll be lots and lots of those, and you can buy and collect those. Almost certainly. I don't know whether you'll get any for free. You must get some for free, but
they're looking very computer gamey. I know in computer games I get different skins.
But, yeah.
So like I'd start off with like a bunch of basic stuff, and then if I want extra, I have to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe like each adventure you buy will come with whatever miniatures it needs. So that's the way you can... I don't know.
Added extra. Yeah.
That's probably how it works.
That makes
sense.
But
I'm guessing that when you design a mini using this miniature generator, you can design it, but then you have to buy it once you've designed it. I would guess. They didn't say for certain.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it'll be subscription or microtransaction. They do... The people at the top do like microtransactions. Because they've seen that work with digital games. So I think for this, they're like, well...
Well, I think they said there's going to be like a tryout sort of mode that you can try it out for free. So I assume that's going to be like a limited functionality or limited time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe
trial period.
being too hard on these like people like running Cosmere and stuff, like, because there are computer role-playing games, right?
Yeah.
And D&D is demonstrably a role-playing game you can play on a computer. Like, are these not the same thing? And for the people listening to this conversation, obviously not, but I could see how you could get it confused.
Well, I mean, Jess, you were saying last week, I think it was, about how for you, the sort of link between this and Baldur's Gate in experience is of interest to you.
Oh, yeah.
They mentioned that as well.
Ooh, what did they say?
So they basically said, it's like someone who's played Baldur's Gate will come along and see this, and it won't be totally unfamiliar to them. And that's kind of the idea behind it.
Yeah. I guess it's bringing...
So people who are used to video games will kind of... Yeah, there's touchstones that they'll recognise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's other stuff like... So there's going to be a load of plug-in locations, which you can just grab and use, or mod as you wish. There are things like a graveyard, a mine, a town, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you can just grab those, and then you can just change them, or put stuff in them, or take things out, or whatever. But each comes also with like a pre-made story, which you can ignore it completely. You don't have to use it. But if you just wanted to grab a graveyard, put it in there, and just run the pre-made story, you've just got a little sort of, mini adventure there, ready to go. And you could presumably build an entire campaign just out of all of these different locations and their pre-made stories.
Yeah. And I imagine as they go by, you can buy new adventures which will have all this stuff in. And
yeah. And the idea is you're supposed to be able to share content with others.
Okay.
So if you create stuff, you should be able to sort of share it, whether that's on a marketplace, or whether that's just literally, hey, I made this, and you just send it to them and they use it. I don't know.
Well, The Sims has that, doesn't it? Like, if you build a house in The Sims, you can share it for free with the rest of the community and be like, I made a house that looks like a boat. And everyone's like, cool, I'll download that. So maybe like that.
No, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell, really. I mean, there's a whole level builder. And they described it as the best miniatures set that you could have. And you just snap together different kit pieces. And it kind of looked to me like basically what you have there is a digital version of Dwarven Forge.
Right.
Is what it kind of looked like to me. And you're snapping all these things together digitally to make all these different dungeons or whatever. But also it's not just dungeons like Dwarven Forges. It's like graveyards and towns and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So that looked kind of cool. Like quite Neverwinter Nightsy. You know how that was tiles?
Yeah.
You put different tiles together.
Well, I'll have to take your word for it. Never actually experimented with Nights. But yeah, like there's lots of different make your own stuff out there. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by this. I have signed up to beta test it when it comes out. So I will certainly be giving it a try.
So on your Mac?
Well, next to me is a PC.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
So
it's not going to be on Mac at first.
We're an integrated household. We have both options.
A mixed computing household.
Yes.
Yeah. It's going to be starting on PC. They're going to have other platforms later, including mobile and console. So they basically want it on every platform they possibly can, but it's starting on PC.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I know, I fully expect it. I didn't expect the beta testing to be available on Mac, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was shooketh to my core when Baldur's Gate 3 was, when I had the early access version on Mac.
I was surprised,
what?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll spend 30 years on that.
Yeah, they showed some clips of like some secret doors and traps going off and a lift that literally went up and down between levels and a camera which kind of swooped in around them. I don't know how much, a lot of this was like quite fancy camera work. And I'm kind of like, I don't know how that will actually
how that'll translate.
Appear in game, whether the DM is expected to operate a virtual drone as well.
I imagine each player will have their own camera they can operate, kind of like if you were playing a game online. But I imagine for pre-built scenarios, you'll have some automated camera movements when something big happens. So it zooms in. Yeah, so it works in that way. Yeah. Well, I imagine like I know anything about it. Like that would be cool if that were the case, is what I mean to say. But yeah.
They also showed a little quick thing of Drizzt fighting Optimus Prime.
Okay, that's a choice.
That's Drizzt Do'Urden, the Dark Elf from the Forgotten Realms, fighting Optimus Prime, the Transformer from not the Forgotten Realms, from Cybertron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I think it would be basically like being attacked by like a toddler with a knife or something. You're like, no, back. While Optimus Prime is trying not to straight out kill Drizzt accidentally. And just like, have you? Attack! It's like, you're very tiny, and these swords are annoying.
Yeah, the shot was from over Optimus Prime's shoulder, so you could sort of see the back of Optimus Prime's head and shoulder, and Drizzt down on the ground, looking quite small.
Yeah, it's like a bit of a discrepancy.
Yeah.
He does have a magical panther, so I feel that will make all the power difference.
Other little bits and pieces. If you have like artwork of your own, you can just put 2D tokens on there. Flat 2D tokens from any artwork, and also you can use 2D maps. If you've got like a 2D map from an older adventure or something, you can just write that one there. So basically, you'll see that 2D map in a sort of isometric point of view, but it'll still be flat, and your tokens will be flat on that map. So it'll look like a map with tokens on it on a table, sort of thing. So you can do that rather than having to build the old 3D models and all that stuff. But I think the goal is to have you collecting virtual minis and things like that is how it's going to go. Because one of the things, they're going to give you a free digital gold dragon mini to kickstart your Project Sigil collection.
Oh, so you will need...
If you pre-order the 2024 physical and digital core rulebook bundle. So that, I think, kind of shows where that's going.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very collectible, I'm guessing. That's the sense I'm getting.
Yeah.
Something about that gives me pause, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't articulate why, but something about it, I'm like, ooh, something makes me feel uncomfortable about that, and I don't know. I can't articulate well where that is. I'll need to reflect.
I mean, already with D&D Beyond, you get like if you get pre-order this, you get free dice.
Oh, it's not the concept that gets things
things
free. It's the concept that, is this going to be a modular, you have to rebuy all your monsters and all that stuff like that? Like, how does it... I don't... Yeah, I know, I also don't know, but something about that makes me feel a bit... Because I kind of think, if you bought the PDF or the digital version of, like, their monster manual, it would be like, and here's all the monster tokens. Like, that would just...
That would be amazing.
That would make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know if that's what they're going to do. And I have feelings about that, and I haven't fully thought through what those feelings are.
Yeah. Some publishers will like write a book of monsters and give you like a digital set of art of all the monster tokens.
Yeah.
Like a 3D monster token would be extra work, but it's like I suppose the nickel and dime thing to do is like just get people to buy them.
Yeah.
And like if
people will just be buying individual monsters, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it seems like, yes, it is an investment. It would be a bit of money, but you're a multi-billion-dollar company, and you instantly kickstart a market because people are like trying them out, and for all the people who are like, oh, it's not for me, there will be people who never bought it. Like, oh, it's a bit nice. It's a bit nice. And it's like, and then they're just like, go buy more. And then you've got third-party creators who are making these, and you just generate massive amounts of money with that initial investment.
I mean, we don't know what sort of money we're talking at the moment, though. Like, what is the miniature going to cost you? Is it going to cost you 50 cents? Is it going to cost you $10? Who knows?
But
it depends on volume. And so, like, volume of sales is not going... I'm going to make a wild prediction. Volume of sales is not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
What is really interesting to see if, like, a small miniature and a large miniature cost the same, given that because they're digital...
It doesn't actually matter.
It doesn't actually make any difference. It's just what size you set them to. Yeah. So whether they're going to charge you more for a dragon than a goblin, when in fact they're both basically digital assets.
Well, bigger models, even if they are, like, say, in plastic, they do require more work because there is more detail. Because there's just more, there's more surface area.
But all right, if you're doing it on that, what if you've got a goblin that's like an alchemist and totally loaded down with tons and tons of stuff, and a dragon that's got nothing?
Then
surely
got a rubbish dragon, then you should probably get there.
Well, yeah, no, but
get an alchemy dragon, obviously.
But what I mean is, like, in that case, the goblin has required more work. So should the goblin cost more than the dragon?
I mean, I don't know about shoulds. It's like this is literally a case for a free market where you say, I reckon my goblin's worth a tenner. And people either look at the goblin and say, oh, that's a nice goblin. You have a tenner. I say, oh, no, too rich for my blood.
Well, I often say the phrase, oh, that's a nice goblin. Sorry, I'm just sorry. That just...
It's a common term around these parts, yeah.
It spoke to me there. Okay, all right.
That's how we are in Hampshire.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Project Sigil.
Okay, I mean, I continue to be intrigued, but cautious, and have feelings about that.
Yeah.
Well, they did say you could play other games on it as well.
Oh, really?
The impression I got was they meant that in the sense that you can put a miniature on a map and move it around and roll some dice.
Okay.
And have it not handle the rules for you. And then basically you can play any role-playing game on it because it's not doing the rules.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, powerful stuff if they do that. Like honestly, it's like the more easy and open access they make it, the more people will be buying into it and the secondary markets. And if Wizards gets like 1% of every sale, then they will absolutely coin it. And they won't ask for 1%.
Someone pointed out to me on Wednesday night at your club, in fact, another 3D virtual tabletop. There are a couple of them out there, but one that's coming on Steam. And I had a quick look at the trailer for it on Steam, and it looked pretty much like it's a third-party one by I think a French company. I can't remember its name. By a French company, and it's going to be free to use. So I'm not sure how it gets monetized, but it looked as good as this.
Yeah,
was the amazing thing. So there is going to be competition out there.
Yeah.
And if there's free competition out there.
I mean, I feel this is very much like we're going over well-trodden ground, market externalities, like the powerful network effects. It's like if they make it easy, if they forfeit it and hide it behind and make it super restricted to use or try, someone else will, have it and steal their market share. And if they make it super easy to use, super friendly, you're just not going to be able to stop people from using it. They will just be like, I'm just going to use it because it's really good. It does everything I want. I can use it for my games as well, and everyone else will be shut out. That is, it's a really successful model that they've done before, rejected before, done terribly. And
when they're adding things
just
like game finders into it as well and things like that.
Oh, days, yeah.
And linking it with D&D Beyond, it's basically going to become like the default way of playing D&D when you're not in person. I think
they could honestly make this like just almost the default community. But if they paywall it high enough, they build a high enough paywall, they will keep people out.
Well, like you say, that's the whole free market thing there, isn't it? It's just about getting the price right.
Yeah.
So we'll see, I guess.
I would argue that free is the correct price for the basic sets to make it happen. Otherwise, they are literally doing themselves a disservice. Fortunately, they don't listen to me. Who does? Terrible idea. What do I know?
People on this podcast are currently.
I'll talk about D&D Beyond, by the way. You remember we were talking about how spells were getting changed last week?
No, they're not.
They've gone back on that. So last week, we for those who might have missed it, so last week we were talking about how D&D Beyond was going to be handling the 2014 rules going forward. Yeah. And for most things, there were going to be like a 2014 and a 2024 version, which you could choose from. Yeah. And the 2014 one would be Mark Legacy. But spells were notably missing from that list.
Yes.
And it basically meant that everybody was going to have to be using the 2024 spells, not the 2014 spells.
Yeah.
They've backtracked on that now. And basically said, sorry, we've heard what you said. We misjudged that. Now, yes, you're going to be able to choose between the 2014 and 2024 spells.
Well, I did like a little tiny bit of, back in the envelope now. And assuming you're really good at homebrewing stuff on D&D Beyond, and it only took you 3 minutes per spell, then you could get it done in a mere 6 hours.
Yeah.
6 hours of data entry.
That's why I got into role-playing games.
Oh, well, we know why you got into role-playing games.
You're all about the spreadsheets, filling in all those forms.
Yeah, but apparently forcing all your customers to do 6 hours of data entry or have other terrible choices is apparently a bad idea, and they backtrack. So good. I'm glad for those people who do not have to do at least 6 hours, by the way, because that was based on 3 minutes per spell. Which
the thing that I just found really odd about that was why just spells and not everything else? Why wouldn't it all be all or nothing? Why nearly everything except spells? That's what was weird.
Or, and this is a crazy idea, just ask. Say, would you like us to update your spells? No? Okay, well, you can ask again.
Well, that's what they're doing now, isn't it? So,
well, or hopefully
you can choose.
Are they offering the option to change over now, or is it just they're not going to do it unless you opt in specifically?
Well, I don't know what the interface is going to look like.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's when you create your character, they have a tick box of which rules do you want to use and things. So
right.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
be select your sources type thing. I don't know.
I think this is good because they said they were going to do something. The community came back saying they didn't want it, and then they've changed tack, which is, I think, all you can ask, really, isn't it? Like, you listen to your community feedback and go, okay, we won't do that then. Like, cool.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Right, anyway.
There's some other
some
D&D
of the stuff that's coming out next year.
I do want to talk about the third-party creator partners.
Oh, let's do that first then.
Because
okay, let's do that one first, and then we'll do the books. You were intrigued by this.
Intrigued, yes.
Intrigued.
I'm intrigued.
Intrigued.
They did summary. Yep. So they announced that before there have been other third-party stuff on the D&D Beyond marketplace, and they've announced more publishers that they're going to be working with. It's got the Griffin Saddlebag, MCDM, Ghostfire Gaming, Dungeons Dudes, Hitpoint Press, Kobold Press, and Free League. So it's all people who've made 5e compatible products that have $1 million Kickstarter. So like Free League,
basically,
Free League is like the 5e Lord of the Rings and thing, and stuff like that.
That's the interesting thing. Like Wizard of the Coast is going to be selling 5e Lord of the Rings to you.
Yes,
which is fascinating. I mean, like, go back 50 years or 40 odd years, DSR was being sued by the Tolkien estate for having hobbits, ents, and balrogs, and had to change them to halflings, treants, and badors.
How the turns table.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is interesting.
Those turns were well and truly tabled, were they not?
Indeed. But yeah, because also, like, they didn't, buy the rights of them, and, loads of stuff was going on. But I was...
Yeah, like, Lorraine Williams passed on the rights to Middle-earth back in, like, the early 90s, saying it wasn't worth it.
Well, there we go. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that interested me was Kobold Press being there. Because they do a lot of 5e stuff, and I'm not surprised because they're of that scale, but... It's because the Project Black Flag felt very like a rebellion, like, stick it to the man, we're going to make our own version. And now they're like, we're working with the man. I don't know, it just felt, I don't know.
I know what you mean, and I've seen other people say that. I get exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah.
It does seem a little odd, but it's not like they stopped selling 5e stuff, is it? They continue to...
Yeah.
No, but
do you see? Yeah, and that's why I was kind of like, it wasn't like a big thing, but I'm surprised.
No, I get
I'm surprised that Wizards opened that to them and invited them because their marketing was very.
But Chaz, if Wizards came to us and said, "Do you want to put your 5e books on D&D Beyond?" We're not going to say no, are we?
We haven't.
They're not going to ask us, but we're not going to say no.
Well, I don't know. I was surprised that Wizards invited Kobold Press, not that Kobold said yes. I was more surprised that way.
Kobold Press is there in Seattle. They all know each other. There's a bit of that involved.
Yeah, but just the marketing was very...
Which direction do you want them? Do you want them in your tent facing out, or do you want them outside your tent facing in?
I want their tent on fire, PJ. No. Sorry,
That's not a nice thing to say about Kobold Press.
No, not Kobold Press. I don't want Kobold Press on fire.
Well, that's the question that Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro has to ask themselves.
Oh, right, okay.
This is by far the biggest competitor because absolutely enormous. Do you want them on your side, pretty much, or do you want them outside? It's not where they still require third parties to produce a lot of the content for their game. They do not have the people in-house to make the books, to make the adventures, to make all of the subclass, all of the ecosystem, right? They still need people to make that because they can't do it themselves. They don't have enough people.
Well, do you remember the University Decried OGL 2.0 that they tried to introduce a year or so ago?
OGL 2.0? Oh,
yes, when they were cancelling the OGL, they wanted to create the OGL 2.0.
Yes.
The Thieves,
paying Wizards of the Coast fees and all sorts of stuff.
The Thieves Charter, where they could just say, we'll take an amount of your money, what are you going to do about it?
Well, cry.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay. Well, that's this. Yeah. So they didn't need to cancel the OGL, they just needed to make a platform that people wanted to use instead.
Yeah.
Which they've done. They've come up with a platform that people want to use, and instead of forcing people to do that, people are coming to them and saying, please let us do that.
Yeah.
So,
people will be begging to pay 40, 50, 60% of their earnings because it's a big pie. It's why a lot of people are saying on DM's Guild.
I don't know what percentage it will be.
It's fine. Yeah.
I mean, DM's Guild is 50%.
Yes, DM's Guild is 50%. Yeah.
So I don't know whether...
We don't know what these deals are because these are private ones, and they might have different deals with different third parties as well, for all we know.
Oh yeah, most probably. But also this involves them actively writing code for each of these things.
Yeah.
So on DM's Guild, Wizards of the Coast doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You upload your PDF and start selling it, Wizards of the Coast has to do nothing.
Yeah.
On this, you have to send Wizards of the Coast your files. They have to sort of painstakingly code each thing.
I mean, sure. Like, as I said, it's like new ancillary services, which further raise the bar to third-party development. But then, to be fair, Wizards don't have to code it. It's like Apple doesn't code every app in the App Store. Apple gatekeeps and says, if you meet our quality requirements, you can have something in the App Store. And if you don't, then you can go away. And for this privilege of having something in the App Store, you may pay 30%.
Yeah, but that's because the items in the App Store are siloed, though. They want the items here to literally work with D&D Beyond. So if you've got, like, a new class, for it to work with D&D Beyond, it has to actually be coded, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that will be a job that Kobold Press would have to incur the expenses for access to the market. And then they will have to pay a further fee on top.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And again,
but that also then means giving people access to the D&D Beyond code.
Yeah, which they're probably not going to do.
I feel at this point we are venturing beyond our technical expertise.
Yeah.
As to what can and can't be done. Maybe there are people who might have a better idea. Imagine that there are probably some quite clever software people. Or maybe there isn't. I don't know. Depends whether they cheaped out. It
depends also how D&D Beyond's been designed. Is it been designed with all these hooks that makes it easier for you to code stuff that hooks into it? Because we've spoken to people that were on the D&D Beyond design team years ago, who some of whom went on to Evil Genius Games and then left Evil Genius Games. Yeah. And the impression I got was that it's a little bit not as bad as Roll20, but it is kind of sort of a little cobbled together and aging now.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like if there's a black box, which is this new website or whatever, and you want to have something, it will have like various places where you can have inputs. You are not required to know what goes into the input, but I guess you'd be given details. Like they could probably back engineer it. I don't know what it's going to do. They might even put it open source, like to make it. Likely. Well, I mean, maybe not. It's hard to say. They've got a lot of the market positioning. They've got the art assets. The art assets are what's going to cost. Yeah. That's going to be expensive. So, I mean, there's good arguments to not keep it secret because the code itself is useful, but the more eyes on it, the more secure it is, the better it is.
Well,
it's the art.
Certainly, the situation at the moment is that Wizards codes. It's not finished. Each thing sent to them.
Yeah.
So whether that will ever change, I don't know. But that's certainly the current situation.
Yeah. As I said, we don't know. We are. This is so far outside our domains of knowledge. We're just like.
Well, the reason, because like we, as you know, are working on Level Up Gateway, which is similar to D&D Beyond in concept.
And when you say
people
we,
have said,
you're paying some smart people to do this work.
I am not personally coding it. Alexander is, very, very competently coding it.
Yes,
good job.
But people do ask, will third-party products be usable on it? And we've just kind of we would like that. But from a technical point of view, that means that third parties will have to learn how to code the plugin module for your thing. It's not just a bit of text. A class isn't a bit of text. It's the whole thing that does stuff. It's a computer program.
Yeah, because it relates to, because the way it's built in is like if you take your armor off, it affects your bonuses and
it's
your
not like you can upload a PDF and it will just start working.
So it's not very accessible. So it may be the case that it's like that in D&D Beyond, which is what I would expect.
Yeah. Each of these books is a computer program. It's not a book.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Foundry has their own things with like a data file, which then interacts with the underlying Foundry logic. But yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a bit of computer programming. Yeah.
But I think Foundry was made in mind to have an interface where people could do that. Like, I think.
Sensible.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the third-party stuff. So I'm definitely interested in the concept of Wizards selling Lord of the Rings now, which is kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Games Workshop before they became Warhammer were doing that as well. So yeah. It's not.
So I wonder if that will tie into the 3D virtual tabletop Project Sigil, and then you'll be able to get like 3D models of Gandalf and wander around Middle Earth. Someone will build Middle Earth on there. I don't know. Will that happen?
I would expect Helm's Deep to be a very popular one.
Yeah.
The Shire. Yeah. Shire would be a nice one. Wander around the Shire.
I'd love to do a Helm's Deep battle.
See, I just have to mention it. And just, it's like,
my eyes glaze over. And
you know what the best one would be, of course? The Mines of Moria. And there is a big, has now been mapped by Free League.
Yeah.
So in theory, presumably, they could take that adventure.
Ooh, that
would be so cool.
That's very intriguing. I've got the One Ring on my shelf over there.
You could fight the Balrog on the bridge at Khazad-dûm. That'd be amazing.
I mean, I've got Shadowdark. So I've got Shadowdark. I've got the Mines of Moria. I've got the Solasta background, which listeners will recall is very focused on verticality and light and dark. I'm like, this looks like it might have legs. I could do things with this.
Yeah. All right, well, that's Project Sigil.
Yes.
So we've got some books. We've got some books coming next year. Many books.
Discuss.
Yeah. So the first of these books is called the D&D Dragon Anthology. It's a working title, apparently, but it's a book with 10 adventures which feature dragons in dungeons.
Interesting.
That feels on brand.
Bold choice.
Yes.
Well, I mean, surprisingly, they've done a lot of adventures which don't have dungeons and don't have dragons.
I know, which is off-brand.
Yeah, that might be where they've been going wrong. Yeah, so, like I say, maybe we'll see a reprint of Council of Worms or something.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's going to be old stuff reprinted or like some of the anthologies they've done, or whether it's going to be brand new. I've no idea.
But they are quite focused on doing Greyhawk as the default setting now, aren't they? So
they've got a whole chapter in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Yeah.
So maybe there'll be new stuff.
I'm looking at the artwork and the scale of some of these dragons as well.
Yeah, that gold dragon.
The gold dragon floating that's like got a ribboned effect that's in a valley.
It looks amazing.
That looks like, I don't even know how to describe the scale of that, because it looks like there's little buildings down there and they're barely the size of one of its spine. How do you fight that? You just go home and cry, I think.
Well, that's also the fact that it's close to you and they're far away. I mean,
some dragons are big and some dragons are far away.
Some dragons are far away, There's that Tiamat. There's a big old Tiamat there. It's like totally wrecking a town, which is quite awesome as pictures go. And they've got a gorgeous red dragon.
They do be like that, wrecking town.
Yeah. But we don't know much else about that other than that there's going to be it's coming sometime in 2025. It's a dragon anthology of adventures featuring dragons in dungeons.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Like, cool. Yeah.
Maybe it'll be reprints, maybe it'll be Greyhawk, maybe it'll be a mix. We don't know.
I don't know.
We'll have to wait and see.
As soon as we know, we will tell you.
Yeah. Right, next, coming out next year, is a brand new starter set, which is currently named Heroes of the Borderlands.
Oh, goodness. Oh, I suppose they do have this new edition. Oh, sorry, not
for the new edition,
Are we calling it a new edition now? Yeah.
No, they're not.
No, okay.
The 2024 rule set.
What they used in the video, an awful lot, was a reimagining. This is a reimagining of the player's handbook, and we have reimagined the monster manual, and it's like lots and lots of kind of like approximate synonyms for edition without actually using the word edition.
For listeners at home, Russ is bravely making his way in the face of what I can only describe as overweening sceptical expressions. He's doing his absolute best, listeners. Heroic efforts.
I'm not going to get into it because I've said it all before, but carry on.
Yeah. Sure. But anyway, so this new starter set, it's set in an area called the Borderlands.
What does it border?
So
is it the sea? Is it bordering the land?
No. The Borderlands.
I think it's two lands that border each other because there was a keep on those Borderlands.
I think
famously so. There's a keep on the Borderlands.
Next to the Chaos Wastes.
Next to the Caves of Chaos.
Cave Chaos, right?
That sounds like such a stressful place to live.
Yes, it is. People keep on. People
me.
wandering in and like trying to murder you and steal your stuff.
But some people are energised by chaos. Some people like it.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah, we know.
No, it's not for me.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, so Heroes of the Borderlands is a working title. It's got character creation in it, which starter sets haven't had before, I believe. They've just had pre-gens in, is that correct? As I recall?
Shrug.
It's got intuitive, component-centric character creation. I don't know what that means.
It's a long word.
Component-centric, did you say?
Intuitive, component-centric.
Oh, yeah. Like that's sort of stuff I've been proposing for a while, but that's skills to implement. It's basically you have like, I don't know, a bunch of skills, like a skills package, but it's like all written down. Like imagine like it's a bunch of playing pieces, and there's a character sheet which is basically blank, but you grab these components and you put them onto the character sheet, and it just works. Yeah. Like little cards in the right shapes.
I would love to be able to do that with just like, you just grab your heritage and you grab your culture and you grab your background, you just put them down, and there's your character. It's a hand of cards. But it wouldn't quite work because then you'd just be looking on different cards for different things which should be together. So it wouldn't quite work. But I like the idea of it.
Yeah.
But then you'd have like combat bits on each card and you'd have exploration bits and spells on different. It wouldn't quite work, but
I mean, it's not impossible. I'm actually quite interested in what they're going to do with the new character sheets and whether they make them a bit more user friendly.
I think we've seen them. We've seen them.
I think. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen them. They're fairly similar to the old ones with a few tweaks.
Yeah. So we'll have to see.
So anyway, this set reimagines B2, the Keep on the Borderlands, a classic D&D adventure, by splitting this adventure into 3 self-contained booklets. And they are the Caves of Chaos, the Keep on the Borderlands, and the Wilderness. And there will be a how-to play video accompanying the release. And it's all about, apparently, teaching people how to play D&D, this set. That's its goal. It's an onboarding set.
Cool. Oh, okay. They're not going to send their own roll to everyone's house.
Well, maybe electronically, via the medium of an onboarding video.
I mean, it'd be a great audition piece.
Yeah, I mean, basically, they should just send that one that she did with The Punisher and just tell everyone to watch that. It's really good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so that's coming next year. I don't know when exactly. I think it's like summerish next year. They didn't say specifically when. But they're saying that we're really leaning into using components to teach people how to play.
Yeah. Like
this is a thing they're doing. They're getting all componenty.
Yeah. If you're going to copy someone's homework, copying the World of Board Games homework is a very strong idea. They have a lot of experience for teaching people how to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like using components to do so. Player aids, player mats, cards, whole 9 yards. Yeah. Great ideas.
Then again, I remember Fantasy Flight games and Warhammer, and it was so many components, and the game was so over-engineered, and I had so much space in front of me, and it was so confusing. It just didn't work for me at all. But it was too componenty.
Yeah,
it was massively over-engineered for a role-playing game. It had as many components as a complex board game would have, and it's I've got cards and tokens and all sorts of things in front of me.
I mean,
it's just too much stuff.
Well, one, a lot of people do like stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It's a big attraction. And 2, it was Fantasy Flight, and they own stock in a cardboard.
They're a board game company, yeah. I mean, that's what they do.
But even in board games, Fantasy Flight are well known for just having all the components.
Stuff,
yeah. I mean, am I wrong, Jess?
Yes. No, you're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. You are correct. They are known for those things. Sorry, I said that wrong, and I realised how it sounded. No, PJ, you are not wrong. Yes, they are known for all the things.
Okay.
Yes, you are not wrong.
PJ is correct. Do you know what? I knew what I meant.
No, you are not wrong.
I knew what I meant, and the way I spoke did not convey that. Anyway,
we should move on swiftly.
Right. The really, really big news I'm going to get to last. I'm going to do some little bits first.
All right. What little bits have you got
Lego Collectible Minifigs coming in September.
I feel like we talked about these already.
They have done them before.
Okay.
These are new ones.
All right.
But they've done them before. We haven't seen these particular ones before, I don't think.
Because I remember the Mind Flayer and the little Intellect Devourer.
Yeah, no, that's ringing a bell with me too, to be honest.
Maybe we've
got the Lady of Pain there, we've got a Mind Flayer, the Intellect Devourer, we've got, yeah.
Maybe we didn't, there was an announcement for this earlier.
Tasha is there. So it's basically a whole lot of iconic D&D stuff.
I mean, yeah, I like the Mind Flayer.
Yeah, I mean, they're coming out September the 1st, so that's like this coming week, isn't it? When's September the 1st?
That's on this Sunday.
Sunday.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Sunday.
Yeah.
So maybe they did an announcement earlier that we talked about, and now they're going, it's now.
Possibly. What else is there? Yeah, there's a exhibit at the Strong National Museum of Play.
Oh, yeah.
Which is going to be Dungeons & Dragons 50 years, especially a 50th anniversary thing, basically. This is opening in September. Located on the first floor of the museum, and it features a timeline of the game's development, early artifacts from D&D's design, and a look at the influence that D&D has had on video games and culture. This museum was founded in the 60s by Margaret Woodbury. I don't actually know where it is. I am going to quickly look up where it is, because that article fails to mention this crucial piece of information.
Yeah.
I'm guessing America, but it is in Rochester, New York, United States.
There we go. That feels like the ideal place for it, to be honest. Like, Yeah.
Fair enough. So that's a thing that's happening. And then finally, we've got a Magic the Gathering Secret Lair drop. So this is apparently, and I don't really know Magic the Gathering, a crossover between Magic and D&D. And there's a whole load of cards being shown with things like Beholder's Enervation Ray and the Beholder's Disintegration Ray and Monster Manual and Akarak, the Lich, the Archlich, or Acererak, however it's pronounced, the Archlich. So there's a whole bunch of D&D cards.
Ready Player One.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know who Acererak. I can't even say the name.
I don't know how you pronounce it.
Who is this person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought everyone... and then someone was like, what, you didn't recognise that big D&D name? I'm like, nope.
It says, when Acererak the Archlich enters, if you haven't completed Tomb of Annihilation, return Acererak the Archlich to its owner's hand and venture into the dungeon.
Nice. So that says to me that there's a bunch of like little mini quests that you do, and one of those would be like Tomb of Annihilation.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so.
And if you manage to, winkle him out, then you can have a fight, otherwise it goes back to the same.
Yeah.
Sweet.
There we go.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so that's that. And then finally, Forgotten Realms.
I forgot about those.
So there are going to be 2 Forgotten Realms hardcovers in 2025.
Exciting.
There's going to be the Forgotten Realms Player's Guide and the Forgotten Realms Campaign Guide. One for players, one for, obviously, Dungeon Masters.
So both can remember.
So at this point, there will be, for 5th edition, triple the number of source books than for any other place. Like, because you've got Sword Coast Adventurous Guide and these 2 new ones, so yeah. That's, it feels like a lot of focus still on Forgotten Realms. Where's Greyhawk? Where's the Greyhawk?
Yeah. Well, Greyhawk's going to be in the DMG, I suppose. At least one chapter of.
Right. So it doesn't really feel like Greyhawk's now being a new setting. It feels like we're still staying in Forgotten Realms.
I guess. Yeah. So the 2 books, the players one will have, player options, basically, new subclasses, feats, backgrounds, spells, new kinds of spells, they said. I don't know what that means. New types of spells. And various factions, like the Harpers or the Red Wizards of Thay. So that's going to be the player's book. And the DM's book is going to dig into various different parts of the realms. And this is interesting. So what they're doing is like different areas of the realms are going to be designed for a different play style. So you've got Baldur's Gate for urban fantasy, Icewind Dale for survival horror. There's the Moonshade Isles, which will be for fairy stories and conflicts which can be resolved without violence. And there's also going to be a giant elven mega dungeon and, the land of Kalimshan. And each one is basically a totally different kind of play style.
Okay.
So yes, that's those 2 books. And we don't know much more about that other than they're coming out late next year. So we're probably talking like November-ish or something.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So the artwork looks cool. That's what I got to look at,
The artwork is always gorgeous. Yeah. So it's going to have 5 in-depth setting guides. Baldur's Gate, Kalimshan, the Dale Lands, Moonshade Isles, and Icewind Dale. Each for a different playstyle.
Love that.
That's the Dungeon Master's book. So yeah, if you want to know more about the Forgotten Realms, that's the way to do it.
Read to remember.
Yeah. Right. And that is pretty much the D&D news.
Gosh, that was a lot of D&D news.
That was quite a lot of news, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was more than your average amount of D&D news.
Wow.
How do we feel about it all? Anything we're excited about?
It sounds like this Sigil thing, or Sigil, or whatever you want to call it, will be...
Sigili. Yeah.
Yeah, Sigili. Sorry. Excuse my terrible... Sigili. Excuse my terrible pronunciation. Will be pretty to look at. There will be cool stuff. And maybe at some point I'll be invited to the game. I'll get to go and wander around and say, oh, that's very cool. And maybe do cool stuff. But it feels like one of the existing problems with virtual tabletops is it can be extremely difficult to come up with stuff on the fly. And I gotta say, it doesn't sound like it's going to do anything to reduce that sort of problem. So, we'll see.
It depends how much you know and how much you can grab and just plug in there.
Yeah. I mean, you could have a whole bunch of stuff off to one side. But yeah, and it depends on how paywalled it is. It's like, it's pretty...
not quite enough info yet.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yes.
Once we've seen that, we'll be able to see what sort of white elephant versus Dreadful Snake it is, because if it's if it costs a lot to get into, there will be, don't get me wrong, right? If it costs a lot to get into, there will still be a huge customer base, right?
Oh, yeah.
Huge, right?
Yeah, of course.
Let's not get mistaken. But there will be competition for this customer base. If it's cheap, free, easy, readily accessible, it's very concerning to be in the rest of the games industry.
Yeah.
Not to put too fine a point on it, yeah? So, we'll see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No, sorry, that's my happy joy take. Yay!
There was one last bit of news I wanted to mention very quickly.
Yeah, okay.
Very quickly. So, you remember last year IO9 shuttered its tabletop gaming news?
Oh, yeah.
And people like Lynn Credega and others lost their jobs at IO9.
Which is a real shame.
Lynn Credega, of course, being famous for having
good coverage.
Very, very well covered the OGL crisis a couple of years back.
And now they've gone on to do Rascal News with some other folks. So, yeah.
Then earlier this year, Dicebreaker closed down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a shame.
Now there's a third one.
Oh, no.
Oh.
So Comic Book News used to quite robustly cover D&D and a bit of other tabletop RPG stuff. They have been laying off a lot of their journalists, a lot of whom are posting on Twitter saying, hey, I am now unemployed and looking for work. And it looks like the Comic Book News is no longer going to be covering tabletop gaming news either. So that's a third one in under a year. Major outlet where tabletop gaming news could be found. Like, they're going down like dominoes, and I'm not 100% sure why.
Well, has Ian World, like with your different hat on, like, you must have some insight into what's there.
But we're a very different model.
Yeah,
They make their money off of that. We don't make our money off that.
No.
But my suspicion is because two of those were due to buyouts.
Yeah.
So Dicebreaker was part of a much larger buyout, and the people the entity that bought the company that owns Dicebreaker, Dicebreaker wasn't the part of it they were interested in.
Yeah.
And Comic Book Movies has just been bought by another company, and following that, the tabletop news stuff gets shuttered. So there's kind of a pattern here of
Scott 11 come in, far of stuff. Sell it off.
But I think what it is like, if you're running one of those sites, and I don't have an insight into because I only cover tabletop RPG news. If you cover movie news and comic book news and tabletop RPG news on the same site, I imagine you are going to see a massive, massive difference in viewer figures for those three topics.
Yes.
Massive difference, like an order of magnitude difference.
Several maybe.
And a new owner would look at that and go, why are we spending these resources writing these articles which get 1/10 of the views that these other articles do?
Yeah.
Can we please just write those other ones from now on? Thanks.
Yeah.
I think that is probably what is going on, at my guess.
That would be my guess as well, because people get into tabletop RPG stuff because they're passionate about it and they care about it.
Yeah.
And if you look at things from a cold business perspective, often you're like, oh, this isn't where we should put our money. But but that's why the TTRPG space is full of passionate, awesome people a lot of the time, because people aren't here to make a lot of money, because that's a very, very rare and difficult thing to do in the TTRPG space.
On Comic Book News, the main D&D correspondent was Christian Hoffer, who coincidentally, I'm not saying it's connected in any way whatsoever, but coincidentally has written 2 articles for EN World this week, as it happens.
Where? What are the chances?
What are the chances?
Sorry.
Anyway, and that is it. That's the news. I think we're done.
Yes.
Well,
I think we're finished.
Should we go over chat about Phantasy Star then?
Yes, let's go and talk to Rich Lescouflair back in time about Phantasy Star.
Malak the Maleficent here. If, like me, you're enjoying this podcast, please consider subscribing on Patreon for exclusive bonus content every week and the warm, fuzzy feeling of knowing you are helping to keep the show going. Subscribe at patreon.com/Morrus. There, I said it. Could you stop staring at me like that now? The things I do. All right. Don't forget, patreon.com/Morrus. Can I go now?
So we have a special guest with us here this week, Rich Lescouflair from Sky Dawn Games, who's here to tell us all about the upcoming Phantasy Star, that's fantasy with a PH, Star, tabletop RPG, based on, I believe, a video game. Am I correct?
That is correct. Video game series.
Yeah, and when we say video game series, this is like a big, epic, early video game series, because I think it first came out late 80s, like it was in the Sega Genesis. I played a little bit in the 90s. I'm sure it's grown and changed a lot since then, but this is like a big, epic license that a lot of people will be familiar with, right?
Yeah.
But not Russ.
You know me and my relationship with video games is not a strong one.
That's fair. I mean, well, Rich, then, so if people haven't heard of it, could you give us a summary as to what the digital game is and how that impacts the TTRPG?
Yeah, so it is my favorite video game series ever. I love RPGs, and I was a video game, kid. I was also a Sega kid. I had a Sega Master System, which is actually what the first game came out on. Here it was released in '88, in Japan it was released in '87, and the reason why it was created as kind of like I don't know if it was a response exactly, but back then Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest, whichever variation of that was like the popular the popular RPG on the Nintendo, and so Sega wanted to make a kind of like their own RPG, since that was getting to be the popular thing at the time. So they got the team together, and then I remember reading about this, and that's why I was like, oh, that makes sense as to why I love this so much. They got the team together, and Sega said, okay, make something kind of like this game, but don't clone it. We want something that plays like it, like an RPG, but not completely unique. And we're just gonna let you go at it, like no actual oversight, not too much. And then so that team got together, and the two assistants. I think actually it was one of the assistants who was kind of like working through the job, like an intern.
Right. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, her name was Chieko Aoki, and she came up with this idea and said, hey, if we don't want to clone, she was huge into Star Wars.
Yeah.
And said, why don't we make something like, with a sci-fi kind of thing, with like a fantasy adventure thing, but put it in space on a system of planets. And then you had Rieko Kodama. I remember this because I was talking about her recently, because she just passed away a couple of years ago. And she came up with this vision of how the art looked and how the characters looked. And even though the person who came up with the concept was credited as an assistant of the game, she was the one that came up with the idea. And the team was a really diverse group of half men, half women, and a lot of assistant work. And it was pretty much not really heard of for something to do for game development. And they got to do whatever they wanted. So they created something that just blew the socks off of everything else. Something totally huge, and that's why and they did something like the first Phantasy Star game, for example. It's I get excited when I talk about it.
So is it fair to say you were a big fan? It certainly sounds.
I was a big fan. Yeah, I was a big fan. Yeah,
I'm getting that sense.
Yeah. The very first scene of the game, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into.
Yeah.
When the RPG stuff is the very first scene. It's like the guy that you would expect to be the hero of every other game. Mm-hmm. In the first scene, he's dying. he's on his deathbed. They're like, okay, the big hero, he's dying. He gets stabbed. He's dying. He gives, he tells his sister.
Some Game of Thrones vibes going on there.
Yeah. He tells his sister, hey, save the people and rescue them from the king's tyranny. And then he dies. And then the sister, who becomes the big, main hero character, which is also not. Goes,
Women heroes in the 80s. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to help the people by killing this guy that killed you. And then, after I kill him, I'm going to pick him up and kill him again. He's, she's this, big revenge story. And it was really cool. So, all right, I'll stop gushing about that. And
we barely started.
Yeah. Well, can you sort of like touch on, what's the genre? What's the, what's the actual game about?
It is very sci fantasy. The original game was very like, kings of planets, and you had like these fantasy domed cities with spaceports. And it was this perfect blend of sci-fi and fantasy, and then it goes. And then what makes the series great is that its sequels follow the story generationally. Like every 1,000 years, the story comes up, and then like they tailor back to the original game and follow this flow of a storyline. Yeah. That like once you get to it's like almost looking for a plot twist somewhere, like late in the game, you're like, oh, this is how this whole thing connects to this game. And that's another element that I saw that was kind of unique.
A real weird fiction vibe, and it's got like sort of almost a saga nature to it as well.
So how did you end up getting the license to produce the official tabletop RPG? I assume you contacted who owns Sega? Who owns it?
I did. I started by contacting reps from Sega of America, and through them, I had an interview with the team in Japan. Yeah. And well, first I had to do a presentation because I felt like it was this is content that like I'm a big fan. But, the majority of the people that really knew a lot of this stuff, like either passed away or aren't with the company anymore. So to kind of put together like a presentation.
Here's the game you make. Here's the game you own the rights to. It's really awesome. Here's what tabletop RPG is. Here's what I made earlier. And this is why you should get me to give you money so I can make this game for you. Is
that sounds exactly it. Yes, I actually had to explain to them, the people I was talking to did not know what D&D was. And, no. And so I had to kind of put that together and say, okay, well, let me put together. It was a PowerPoint I put together, and I'm like, it explains what D&D is first, and then goes into what Phantasy Star is. And I kind of explained that like Phantasy Star was like a huge inspiration for the RPG that I already made, which was Esper Genesis. So I'm kind of bringing that full circle back to Phantasy Star, which was one of the licenses I wanted to go.
Always wanted to get. Yeah. So it's going to be powered by your Esper Genesis game, which in turn is 5e powered itself. Is that correct?
Yes. The reason why I had said powered by Esper Genesis is because it has a lot of the sci-fi elements that are unique, like the starships and the gear and like all of that, and rules that are not in standard 5e. So it's more of that than just like the core mechanics. So yeah. I mean, I remember you came on, it was like 2 years ago. 3 years. It was a while ago. It was a while
maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
It was before we were doing Level Up for us. It was quite some time. Sorry.
But you came on to talk about Esper Genesis then, and we could probably put a link in the show notes so if anyone wants to go and listen to that episode again and sort of get a recap on Esper Genesis itself. But do you want to just give us a really, really quick sort of primer, just really quick, and then we'll go back to Phantasy Star, just so people know the context we're talking in.
Really quick, it's heroic, science fiction, powered by 5th edition. It has sci-fi, like, planets and gear and starships and robots and, rules for like the Matrix and like, basically taking anything that you would see as far as creating something fantasy for D&D and creating something sci-fi. Using the same.
I think it's probably one of the first 5e sci-fi games, I think.
Yeah.
It's been around a while now.
There's others, but Esper Genesis was definitely one of the first. I saw it and I was like really impressed by how well you implemented the firearms rules in 5th edition. I was like, oh, okay, that looks would work quite well. With the sustained fire, you make a dexterity saving throw in like a small grip.
For burst fire.
That is burst fire. Sorry. Sustained fire, just showing my age and my Warhammer But making that deck save, I thought, that's a good idea, that'll work,
I guess that makes Phantasy Star a lot more accessible to people that have only played D&D and perhaps want to stay playing that it's not going to be that much of a transition to play Esper Genesis then. It's not like, oh, it's a brand new, it's going to feel familiar. You're rolling a d20 and, so it's going to be the mechanics that you're comfortable with, but in this brand new world that's going to be a new story that you've not experienced. Is that, would that be a good pitch, yeah?
Yes. Esper Genesis-wise, when I originally designed it, I designed it so that, like, if you really wanted to, you could put a dwarf in a starship. And it'll work.
Yeah. Amazing.
Now it's kind of, it's going a little bit different now. D&D is doing its own thing, so
sure.
So I am doing that as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's fair.
So Esper Genesis is a standalone game, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't need the core D&D. Do you need the Esper Genesis books to play Phantasy Star, or is that also standalone?
No, that is also going to be standalone.
Okay.
However, I am going to design it so that if you really wanted to blow it out to other things, you can always take the Esper Genesis rules.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there will be a certain cross-compatibility. Void Runner's Codex, I would definitely recommend picking up the Esper Genesis Threats database to instantly expand your monster options. If you're doing 5e and sci-fi, then this feels like a very, very obvious choice to come look at.
Yeah, there's some things that I think, like, people say they're using 5e, and I think that's not the best fit. But I think for really sort of heroic sci-fi science fantasy, I think 5e is a solid choice of a system to use for that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Like the 0 to hero arc, I feel is like very baked in. You give me a lot of nodding here, Rich.
Well, there's a lot of people bash on 5e because of it's existing elements, but there's so much you can do with it that a lot of people haven't tried. And they ask you, they're like, oh, why would you want to do that when there's other systems? I'm like, well, because everyone knows this one, and because I know this one,
because I'll sell 10 times as many books by using 5e.
And I've been playing D&D for since my teens, so
So Phantasy Star coming to Kickstarter, is it next year? I know it's 2025. No Kickstarter.
No Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's no. That is that's actually part of my agreement.
Right. Yeah.
Got it. Right.
So some IP holders don't like you to do that. I think Disney won't let anyone use Kickstarter with any of their Star Wars stuff or Marvel stuff or anything like that.
Which is kind of like, okay, I understand from their point of view. From my point of view, it's like, what, you don't think this is going to make money? Of course it is. It's going to make, it's going to make a lot of money. But I do understand their, that's how they operate as a company is concerned. So with everything else, so you.
I think there's possibly an element that some of these larger companies don't necessarily understand Kickstarter as well.
No.
Yeah, and how integral it is to the TTRPG industry. Like, it's such a not just Kickstarter but crowdfunding is such a commonplace thing. So for us, it's like, of course. But
from people I've spoken to, it's kind of like there's too much of an overlap between crowdfunding and investing in the mind of somebody that hasn't encountered Kickstarter before.
And I mean, you're being a venture capitalist, it's true.
Yeah. So I think there's like a slight concern. They don't really understand what the actual relationship is between a Kickstarter backer and because there's some talk on Kickstarter that you're investing in a product as opposed to and I think some of that terminology can possibly put
maybe
some larger companies. I don't know. Well, I can't speak for them.
There's also an image thing, right? There's as a big company, if you've been around for that long and you're not really too familiar with the TTRPG space, why would you need to crowdfund? And B, do you want to put your official IP or your logo or something on someone else's? I'm kind of looking at it from the 10,000-foot view and going, okay, It sucks, but I really want to do this project. So
fair enough. So traditional release next year. When next year? Is there a date planned yet?
I did not put together a hard date because
that's smart.
I learned my lesson from the last project. I still have I have a Kickstarter that only now that we had actually established Skydown Game Studio. We kind of took over the production and are getting things out. But the Kickstarter is like well over a year late on delivery, and that was because we had, when we originally concepted it, we had put together kind of like a whole thing, like actually not long after we did our interview here. But one of my business partners, he unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
And then like everything kind of like collapsed under our feet, after that. And then, time and like projects and like everything, like, we were having issues handling a lot of things. And then we had like the whole thing change with the printing that became 3 times as expensive as it used to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of planning ahead, right? I'm like, hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? We will be shooting to get this out by mid 2025. That's the goal line. With leaving room for potential pitfalls.
Okay. What product should we be expecting? Like a hardcover book? Is there Adventures coming? Is there?
It's going to be a hardcover book, and I wanted to make it palatable. Desirable. I guess is a better word for both RPG players and Phantasy Star fans. I'm a gigantic Phantasy Star fan. And so, like, even if, like, I didn't play RPGs, I wanted to make a book to be like, yeah, I want that book because
so it's going to be part sort of coffee table reference book as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things that people haven't really, seen or read about or seen, like, So someone said, I read something recently. Well, I already got what I wanted out of it. I sent, like, a preview sketch of characters.
Yeah.
Someone said something like, I got to see like my favorite, like official art for my favorite character from like 35 years ago. And
wow. Okay.
And
I'm like, okay. So we got a hardcover core rule book. What else have we got in the plans? What's in the oven?
Before that, I'm putting together, because we are not crowdfunding, I can kind of present the game the way that I want to. I guess that's the advantage. So I'm putting together a starter kit, like a starter adventure that's going to come out.
Russ loves a starter set.
Hopefully within the next couple of months. So it's not going to be like a starter box. It's not going to be a starter box or anything. It's going to be digital, but it's going to be since I'm making the game for both old RPGers and for fans. It's going to be, here's an intro adventure. Here's kind of like a starter on how to play with the rules. And it's going to be, set in an event that happens during the very first game, so that people that are getting into the game they're already familiar with the scenario.
Right, gotcha, yeah.
And it uses the 4 main characters of the original game. That you can play while you're running the adventure. So I thought that was kind of a cool idea. I'll have that up there, and then plan is for people that are getting into it that way, then maybe like I'm gonna offer probably like special discounts, for people that want to purchase the book, going forward, people that are already interested.
Nice.
Yeah. And in terms of marketing and so forth, like obviously we've had Phantasy Star online. How are you going to reach these people who might not necessarily be role players, but who would
Phantasy Star Online? Phantasy Star Online is a different. It's so when Phantasy Star Online came out, they actually took the entire classic story and all the characters in Phantasy Star and kind of forgot about them.
So it's like a different timeline.
Yeah, it's like a whole different timeline and a whole different thing. I plan on introducing some Phantasy Star Online elements. And some art and kind of like putting in like some of those online elements in the gameplay as well, without necessarily directly connecting the two, because they're not really directly connected.
Yeah, they're not the same. But okay. Yeah. Oh, I guess you mentioned. Oh, sorry, Russ, I'm talking over you. Please.
Go on.
Oh, I was just wondering about art and so forth as well, because are you getting any help with that, or do you have access to the original?
I do now. Well, when I thought about the original artwork, I was like, well, the original artwork is it's well, no. I mean, it's great artwork, but I mean, the computer artwork it's also very it's very old and
dated.
It's still it's not only that, but it's not even anything that I would be able to use for like an actual production.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like low res pixelated stuff. Is that? Yeah.
So, our lead illustrator for Esper Genesis, Santi Casas, he also happens to love Phantasy Star, which is probably why we get along so well. And, he wanted to do all of like Kodama's characters, like, Justice, because he really loves that, the series. So he knocked it out of the park. Some of his art is already like, on the website. He did this rendition of Alice that like I didn't even have to ask him very much. He just kind of did. He's like, "What about this?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen." Yeah, just go and do that. He did the rest. We're on audio, but I can show you some stuff.
Oh yeah,
I'm getting a real.
The listeners
vibe.
will just have to listen to us going ooh and ah.
I'm getting a real vibe that like you're saying to him, "Oh yeah, could you do some Phantasy Star art?" And he's there trying to play it, sweat pouring off him, background, just all these Phantasy Star art.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of made sense because, and it didn't click until later on because when he did the very first character for Esper Genesis, was our engineer, he sent it, and I got so much like Phantasy Star vibes off of it. I was like, oh wow, like this is great. And then we kind of did Esper Genesis art kind of based off of that theme, not understanding that I was already, that we were already going on the same track with what we wanted to do. I can't share anything.
You're already on the same page already. It's like, try and make it a bit more Phantasy Star.
No,
I can do that, yeah.
I can't share anything, so
Hang on a sec. That's probably a setting here. Let me.
Yeah, it's a setting.
I can see there's some art on the website already.
Yep.
So already there's some teasers and things there. So if people listening, we'll link that so people can, have a look at that.
So we talk about who you play in a Phantasy Star, like in terms of classes and things like that. What the sort of player options we're talking about here?
Yeah, I was intrigued by that because of the difference of the characters and stories you play on a digital game versus tabletop RPG as well. So I was also wondering, to follow on from Russ's question, because it jumps in, is how have you like translated that so it works for tabletop opposed to digital?
The nice thing about like JRPGs and video game RPGs is they kind of already give you a baseline to work from. It is, every character already has technically a class and levels and like, so you kind of look at what gear they use and how they level and like what spells they have and kind of put together and with a system that you already know, you kind of get together. Oh, okay. Hey, I can make this work with X character.
It's a translation.
Yeah. It's really,
like, you speak Phantasy Star, you speak D&D fluently.
Right.
You're like, okay, I think I understand this. Like, I can't just plonk the mechanics in, that won't work, but I get a feel for it. I know how it should feel.
Right.
And getting that emotional experiences. I'm telling you your job here at this point. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. You're not wrong. So there's an approach I'm going with because all of the games, they have the same species and characters and, but obviously the rules have changed as you progress in the game. So like I'm gonna adopt like one of the optionals that we put into Esper Genesis in the Technician's Guide, where you're kind of creating a hero and you have like an identity and like an origin, and then that origin, which your species is a part of. I guess it's kind of what D&D is doing now, but just a little different. You can get like an environmental origin, and then your background and your bonds, and then after that you can go to your class, and then the classes are they're 5e, but they're very familiar to Phantasy Star. You have your hunter, and then your scientist, your thief, your Esper wizard, your mystic. Espers are like a huge part of the game. Like they're like a society of wizards and mystics that were protecting the planets against the dark force that. That's right.
You're saying like an environmental background, so you've got sort of who they're born as and then where they grew up, sort of.
Right.
Like that?
Right. Yeah. So where your species doesn't necessarily dictate your culture. It could just dictates your appearance, and then like your environment, for example, if you're on a heavy gravity world, planet. Yeah, exactly,
or an orbital,
right.
These all add different. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Well, this sounds really exciting. I mean, just like more sci-fi options for 5e is exciting in itself, just because I feel like my first love has always been sci-fi before fantasy. I've always loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been calling to me that fantasy is so much more popular in tabletop RPGs than fantasy is. So, you know, every time there's a new sci-fi game, I'm just like, I'm there. I'm looking at it. I'm checking it out. So I can't wait. I'm going to be checking this out for certain next year.
Yeah.
So what we're talking mid next year, sort of summer-ish?
Probably late summer.
Late summer, okay.
Yeah.
It'd be a birthday present for me. Excellent.
I'm trying not to set an exact date.
Yeah.
You have a sign up on your website so people can be notified when you know exactly when it's going to be. There's a mailing list I noticed. So is that the best way to kind of be informed of when it's happening? Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I put together like our first mailing list for our group of what we called our pioneers, which were like, you know, the people that signed up before August 15th, and the, you know, people that play Phantasy Star Online will recognize the pioneer, you know, moniker.
Yeah. If you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But I, you know, basically sending out like, you know, hey, here's where we're at. Here's, you know, some preview sketches that, you know, that we're doing. And I'm going to be talking about pretty soon, like the starter adventure, which I want to have out within like a couple of months.
Yeah.
I know the 2025 date is kind of like this is just kind of in this far off future, and I don't really know what's happening. And I'm like, no, I want people to actually see stuff and get excited about stuff. And like, look, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
I will say, by the way, that for listeners, it's probably worth having a look at skydawngames.com/Phantasy Star, because it's very much like opening up an old-fashioned computer game. You've got to start, continue.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll click start and see what goes, and it just like automatically brings up the next screen. And that's a bit of design.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, your love for the setting and the games is really apparent. It's really coming through. And I know the sort of level of detail and care that you put into Vesper Genesis, and that's a beautiful, amazing game. So I have absolutely no doubt that this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. So
me
on
neither.
that note, I think we probably need to wrap up now. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and do let us know when that adventure comes out, because I'll be picking that up for sure.
Absolutely.
And yeah. Okay, that's it for this week. We will see you again next week, same time, same place. But until then, let's all go and have a weekend. Woohoo! Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Apparently I now have to read this to you. This is the official podcast of Morrus's unofficial tabletop RPG news, which you can find at enworld.org. You can find show notes at morrus.podbean.com or wherever you found the podcast. If you feel like they deserve it, you can support the show on Patreon. In return, you will receive exclusive bonus content. Just go to patreon.com/Morrus. If you're interested in his babbling nonsense, you can follow @Morrus on the Twitter. Send your emails to morruspodcast@gmail.com. Not all of your emails, just the ones you want us to see. That's it. I'm bored now. You can go away. Shoo, off you go. Goodbye. Get out of here.
Lots and lots of different travellers over here. There's Mega Traveller. There's loads of them. I've got like 2 or 3 of them.
Nice.
Probably, I don't know if you can see them on the shelves behind me, but up there. I've got 2 or 3 of them up there.
I mean, you should run some at the club. Like, we'd love to see some more sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the system well enough to run it. I'd have to bone up on it.
You know, a great way to learn a system.
Just run it.
Running it.
Yeah. The thing is, for me personally, though, kind of my version of Traveller is what's always new.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's like, I would rather run that just because that's my game, and I made it the way I like it.
Yeah, funny that, yeah.
Yeah.